Have you ever felt it? That moment where everything is on the line, that final interview question, the penalty shootout, the big presentation to the board. That feeling, well, that's pressure. And it's one of the most universal things we experience as humans. We talk about it all the time, right? But do we really get what it is? And more importantly, do we know how to conquer it? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the science of doing just that.
This quote from Dr. John Gottman's research just hits the nail on the head. Pressure isn't just some vague feeling in your gut. No, it fundamentally changes us. It makes our bodies go into overdrive, our thinking gets totally inflexible, and suddenly we're just acting on impulse. And this isn't just about your job. It gets right into our most personal relationships and can actually predict with scary accuracy whether they'll last or not.
We love to celebrate those superstars who seem to just thrive when the stakes are highest, don't we? The athlete who scores the winning goal, the CEO who just nails that crucial negotiation. We call them clutch. But here's a wild thought. What if that's all wrong? What if our belief in the clutch player is one of the biggest myths in performance psychology? That's the provocative idea we're really going to dig into today.
So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to take a 5-step journey together. First, we'll uncover something called the pressure paradox. Then we'll get into the science of why we choke. After that, and this is the good part, we'll arm you with an instant toolkit for relief, help you build a long-term coat of armor, and finally, we'll pull it all together so you can absolutely master your biggest moments.
Okay, let's jump right into our first section, the pressure paradox. This is where we're going to figure out what pressure actually is and, dismantle some of the damaging myths we've all been told about it. It's time to separate fact from fiction.
Now here is a super crucial distinction we almost always miss. We use the words stress and pressure like they're the same thing, but they're not at all. Stress is that chronic background hum of being overwhelmed. Too much work, not enough time, you know the feeling. Pressure, on the other hand, is sharp. It's acute. It's a specific moment where success or failure has real consequences. Think of it like this. Stress is the marathon of daily life. Pressure is the final 100-meter sprint with everything on the line. So what's the magic recipe that turns a regular moment into a pressure cooker? Well, the research points to these 3 essential ingredients. First, the outcome has to be important to you. Second, the outcome's got to be uncertain. I mean, if success was a sure thing, there'd be no pressure, right? And third, you have to feel responsible for what happens. Just picture a student about to sit for their 12th board exams. The result is hugely important. It's totally uncertain, and they feel the full weight of responsibility. That right there is a perfect storm for a pressure moment.
And here it is. This is the core, and honestly, kind of shocking finding from all the research. After studying over 12,000 people, we're talking CEOs, athletes, surgeons, you name it, the data is overwhelmingly clear. The vast majority of us do not rise to the occasion. We don't perform better, we perform worse. Pressure actually degrades our judgment, our decision-making, and our skills.
So here's the bottom line. If most people perform worse under pressure, then the whole idea of a clutch player, someone who consistently performs better when it matters most, is statistically speaking, a myth. What we see as clutch is often just a player who manages to perform closer to their normal ability while everyone else's performance completely tanks. They just falter less, which makes them look like a hero in comparison.
And the data totally backs this up. Let's take a top Indian cricketer, someone of Virat Kohli's caliber. In regular league matches, their batting average is probably phenomenal. But look what happens in those high-stakes finals, IPL playoffs, World Cup knockouts. The average almost always drops. The numbers just don't lie. Even for the best in the world, pressure takes its toll. The very few who somehow manage to just maintain their baseline performance, those are the ones we call clutch.
Okay, so if we know that pressure usually makes us perform worse, the next big question is, why? Why does this happen? In this next section, we're going to dive into the fascinating science behind what's going on in our brains when we're on high alert. We're going to unpack the mechanics of that dreaded thing we call choking.
First things first, let's get crystal clear on what choking really is. It's not just having a bad day. Choking is specifically a significant drop in performance on a task you've already mastered, and it happens precisely because of the pressure. It's the expert guitarist fumbling a chord they've played 1,000 times, or the seasoned public speaker completely blanking on their lines. The desire to do well is there, but the pressure itself is what causes the failure.
To really understand choking, you need to meet the 2 key players in your brain's performance system. On one side, you've got your working memory. Think of it as your brain's RAM or a mental scratch pad. It's what you use for real-time problem solving.
On the other side is your procedural memory, basically your brain's autopilot. This is where all your well-practiced automatic skills live, like driving a car or delivering a speech you know by heart.
So, how does a choke actually happen? It's like a three-step mental train wreck. First, the high-stakes situation creates intense worry. What if I mess this up? What will they think of me? Second, these anxious thoughts just flood your working memory, leaving no space for the actual task. And then, this is the fatal step. To try and compensate, you start to consciously control the automatic skills that are stored in your procedural memory. You start thinking about how to swing the bat instead of just swinging it. You literally overthink your way to failure.
So what's fueling all these worries that overload our brains? Well, the answer often lies in something called cognitive distortions. These are basically patterns of thinking that create a warped, inaccurate version of reality. They're the mental traps we set for ourselves. And one of the most common and powerful ones under pressure is magnification.
Here's a perfect example of magnification. I bet this sounds familiar to a lot of young professionals in competitive cities all over India. You take one single event, a promotion, and you blow its consequences way out of proportion. Is it important? Yeah, for sure. Is it the single defining moment of your entire career? Absolutely not. But by magnifying the stakes like that, you crank up the pressure to an unbearable level, making it even harder to perform.
Now, beyond our own distorted thinking, the world around us can also set what the authors call pressure traps. And what's wild is that they often seem like good things. The support trap is when having your family and friends watching makes you so afraid of disappointing them that you actually do worse. The incentive trap is when a huge bonus makes you focus on the money instead of the task. And the competition trap is when the desire to just beat the other guy overrides your focus on doing your own job well.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, and I know it might sound a little bleak, but here's the good news. This is where we turn the corner. This next section is all about practical, in-the-moment solutions you can use right now to fight back against pressure. And the source material doesn't just diagnose the problem, it gives us a rich prescription for how to fix it. It details 22 distinct, scientifically tested strategies that you can use to manage pressure's effects right in the heat of the moment. That is a huge arsenal of tools to have ready to go. A lot of these tools are all about reframing your mindset. Instead of seeing a pressure situation as a threat, you can learn to see it as a challenge, a simple but really powerful shift. You can actively downsize the moment's importance, you can recall past successes to give yourself a confidence boost, and reminding yourself that this isn't your one and only shot at success, that can dramatically lower the stakes.
Another really powerful set of tools revolves around managing your focus. When pressure hits, our minds just race toward future fears. Grounding yourself in the here and now by focusing on your senses, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, can break that cycle. Similarly, just ruthlessly focusing only on what you can actually control is a total game changer. Using a simple anchor, like a single word, focus, can quiet all that mental noise. And establishing a pre-performance routine creates the sense of control that signals to your brain, okay, it's time to perform.
So those instant tools, they are fantastic for winning the moment. But for long-term success, you need to build true, deep resilience. And that's where our next section comes in, forging your coat of armor. I absolutely love this metaphor because it perfectly captures the difference. The 22 solutions are like tactical moves to survive a battle. They're essential. The coat of armor, though, is your long-term strength. It's what helps you win the war. It's the difference between having a first aid kit and having a powerful immune system.
The foundation of this armor is confidence. And we're not talking about arrogance. This is a deep-seated belief that you can handle whatever the situation throws at you. It's the direct antidote to the doubt and worry that flood your brain when the stakes are high.
Next up is optimism. Now, this isn't just about thinking happy thoughts. It's a resilient mindset where you see setbacks not as permanent failures, but as temporary, specific things you can learn from. This outlook is what fuels perseverance. The third component is tenacity, or what we often call pure grit. It's that mental toughness to just keep going when things get hard. And honestly, the research is crystal clear on this. Tenacity is a far better predictor of long-term success than raw talent ever will be. And finally, we have enthusiasm. This is the positive, infectious energy you bring to what you do. It boosts creativity, it builds stronger connections with other people, and it connects your work to a bigger purpose. It's really the fuel that keeps you going.
So we've deconstructed pressure, we've understood the science of choking, and we've explored both short-term tools and a long-term strategy for building resilience. Now, in our final section, let's bring it all together and talk about how you can truly master your biggest moments.
This right here is maybe the most empowering takeaway from this entire topic. Feeling pressure is not a sign that you're weak, it's a sign that you're doing something that matters. If you're chasing important goals and challenging yourself, pressure is going to be part of the deal. But the key insight is this: while pressure is inevitable, choking is optional.
So you now have a clear, actionable path forward. First, you can recognize when a pressure moment is happening. Second, you understand the science of what's going on inside your own brain. Third, you have a practical toolkit for immediate relief. And fourth, you have the Code of Armor framework to build deep, lasting resilience over time. And that really brings us to the most important question of all: what are you going to do differently? The next time you face that high-stakes meeting, that crucial exam, or that difficult conversation, how are you going to use what you've learned today to perform at your absolute best? Everything we've covered today is based on the groundbreaking research in the book Performing Under Pressure by Hendrie Weisinger and J.P. Fry. If you want to dive even deeper into these concepts and explore all 22 of those strategies in detail, we highly recommend it. We've put a link to purchase the book in the description. We really hope this explainer has given you the tools to master your next pressure moment.